2, 3, 4. Dylan Butler, and it is Wednesdays with Dylan. And so, first and foremost, what is the coffee mug this morning? Who are you breaking out today?
Me.
Dad. Oh, Dad.
Yeah, that's it.
So, nutritional facts on Dad.
Yep.
Let's see. I would probably say 100 grams of Sleepy. Most mornings.
Dedicated, devoted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you get your daily recommended allowance of devoted and such, and dedicated. Yes.
Yeah. Strength, guidance, 0 quitter, 0% quitter in that nutritional facts.
Yeah. All right. So, how was Friday night? We always have to have our high school update before we get into Major League Soccer. So, what was Friday?
Yeah, I mean that was the game a town over, which was that was exciting, right? So it was so close that our director, as I was en route, texted me and said, "Hey, can you bring an extra power strip?" And I was so close that it was only a 5-minute ride that I literally was able to come back home, go back there, and still have plenty of time to spare. So yeah, game was good. Sayville won, beat West Hampton. West Hampton Beach is a younger team, a lot of juniors in the team, so they'll be back next year. Sayville is in Suffolk County's Division 3, the powerhouse. They've been the powerhouse. You might know a name to have come out of Sayville, which is Jack Cohn, was the quarterback at Notre Dame. Before that, Wisconsin, was with the Colts in the preseason. So he's kind of, he's Mr. Sayville there. So game was it was actually weird because we did the same game last year, right? Friday night, same situation. And it ended up being the same exact score. And it wasn't even like 21-7. It was 35-6. That's hard. Like
Yes.
you missed the extra point in both of those games if you're West Hampton.
Rich Ransom, our resident Philadelphia watcher, he says Long Island a football powerhouse with a question mark.
I would expand it to New York as a whole. Getting there, there's between the city and the island and Westchester, there's players, and like the colleges are starting to to recognize more and more of those players. So more and more players on this side of, like, Jersey's always kind of had that, right? Like you've got the Don Boscos and Bergen Catholics of the world, and they get a bunch of the Olsen, forgot his first name, but Olsen played at Miami, and then the Sims brothers from Phil Sims. But yeah, this side of the GW, we're getting some good football talent.
Abby is asking if you are in Suffolk.
I am in Suffolk County.
Because if she would have stayed in New York, she would have gone to North Babylon High.
Yeah, that's not too, probably 3 towns over or so. Not too far.
Okay. And Greg Olsen is the name.
Thank you.
That you were chasing. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So Rich, our resident Philly individual, he's the one who got Greg Olsen correct. All right. So, yeah, no, I anything having to do with the U, Rich, is perfectly fine. I just, when you try to do the thing with the thumbs, especially me, my thumbs kind of get to like right here, and then my hands start to violently shake, and then they start to peel off and go this way. They can never meet.
That was one of the better. There's been a lot of very good 30 for 30s. That was a very good one as well.
Yes. 2 Escobars, Pony XS was one. And the Pony XS on SMU, full disclosure, over my right shoulder. the quarterback from Southern Methodist University, Lance McElhaney, that sawed-off quarterback, Lance McElhaney, ran the option with Eric Dickerson and Craig James right there, autographed football jersey right there, because it was one of those that could not be left unsaid. Okay, a lot of stuff to get into this morning.
Yeah.
First off, let's get into the stuff that you and Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert, and everybody else was getting into yesterday. Coaching carousel on a couple of different fronts. And we talked about it yesterday, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. The idea of Ben Olsen et al. And Houston. What's the latest there?
Good question. Certainly discussions, pretty multiple discussions happening. I think if you're a Houston fan, like certainly a lot of mixed emotions, right? Like with the different candidates that have come across, and very different, right? Like a Ben Olsen, who's an MLS lifer, who had some early success with DC United, obviously not a lot later on. But he was obviously with DC forever, so it would be a new situation for him. Hugo Perez, an interesting one, right? As well, another guy obviously has plenty of MLS ties, having now coached the El Salvador national team and utilizing a lot of those younger MLS players as well. And then, Juan Carlos Osorio as well, having interviewed for that job, another guy obviously with MLS ties, very tied in with South American soccer, and obviously the former Mexican national team head coach. So Hector Herrera knows him well. So yeah, a lot of different ways you can go with this. It would seem like Houston will be paying well, I think, for this position.
Yes.
So I think that's what has intrigued the candidates. The one that I'm a little bit confused about is Wilfred Nancy maybe here talking to Columbus, right?
Or is Columbus just putting a name out there, sitting there trying to draw interest to make sure that they are still in the spotlight, trying to get a new coach? I mean, you may as well shoot for the top, right?
Yeah, no. I don't. It's a strange one for me because Nancy's obviously worked his way up through Montreal. He's got a year left on his contract. Has had success there. Columbus would have to ask permission and then probably also compensate, considering he's under contract, which again wouldn't make a ton of sense to me. So that's an intriguing one as well. And then the other coaching carousel news, right, is the thing that we've heard about a long time, Christian Latanzio becoming official now at Charlotte. Love that move. Again, I've got to see him pretty closely here when he was with Patrick Vieira at NYCFC. Always thought he was meticulous in his training sessions, and obviously his CV speaks for itself. So and he's had success, right? Like in the 20 matches I think it was that he was in charge. So 26 points out of those 20 matches, got the team right to the precipice of potentially becoming the latest expansion team to make the playoffs. So I think that's a good hire for Charlotte.
And have you heard anything about any of the other vacancies, or is everybody just kind of lying in wait until the season's over, interim or otherwise?
Haven't heard, but I would, unless they've got some big name lying in wait, I would think that Nick Cushing could probably lose that interim tag, considering this run to the Eastern Conference Final for NYCFC for a second straight year. Yeah, but that's just a guess.
Pep Guardiola incoming.
He does love New York.
Yeah.
I fully expect him at some point to be the NYCFC manager.
Mm-hmm.
At
Absolutely.
some point.
Yeah. Just not like right now. Just give it a couple.
Probably
of
not. Yeah.
Yeah. When he's finished with Champions League runs and things like that. So far we had we're down to the conference finals.
Mhm.
What did you think about what happened last weekend?
So I'm pretty bummed I didn't do a bracket
Yeah.
because and look, I fully expect everyone to hammer me on this, but it would actually be perfect.
Wow.
Um, because as you remember last week, we talked over the Montreal NYCFC. I had picked NYCFC. You picked Montreal.
True.
I had picked. I put it out there that I picked. I think I put it out there that I put here that I picked Austin. I thought Philly would win. I picked going back. I said Cincinnati would beat Red Bull. I don't think they've been that hard to predict to this point, to be honest. Where I've done worse, full disclosure, is on my my year-end votes. For the major ones, I think I'm like 0 for 3 now.
Yeah.
I did not pick goalkeeper of the year. I did not pick coach of the year, or at least accurately. Did not pick newcomer of the year. So 0 for 3 for me on those. But the playoff bracket, had I done one, would be perfect. I don't. These are now the tougher ones to go by. But yeah, to your question about the last round, go back to Thursday, right? I think Cincinnati could hold their head high, right? Like they battled Philly, man. That was contentious. It was feisty. It was nasty. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and to be fair, Andre Blake showed in that match, right? Like why he's the goalkeeper of the year. Came up
Yep.
with some massive, massive saves.
Mm-hmm.
And then El Trafico again lived up to it, right? Like you're on the East Coast and you're like, can I stay up? And
Yes, you can.
it's intravenous, right? Like that energy, man. Like it's incredible stuff. It again delivered in a big way. Galaxy pushed LAFC right to the death, and then Arango, right? Finishes and it's kind of telling in a way, right? Like where there was all this talk when Gareth Bale was going to come in, like what do you do with Arango, right? Like where does he and they need a DP number 9. Well, they actually have one, and Arango has proven that. And then after he scores a goal, he goes all like winning Wimbledon and goes up into the 6th row. So
do we have confirmation on who that individual was?
I do not.
Okay.
That person did not have a big taco, though. I will say that.
I know, but yeah, he did go full Pat Cash. I mean, that was.
and then on Sunday, NYCFC just they get the early goal, and then the second one really seemed to deflate Montreal, right? Like they get a late cosmetic goal from Mihailovic, but I think again it was NYCFC as they did in the first match against Miami, kind of like, listen, we're the champs, right? Like we've been there, done that. We've got the same guys we're rolling with. So showed some of that swagger that they showed last year.
Yeah.
And really interestingly here too is they're following a very similar track to potentially getting to the cup again, right? Like where they were home for the first match and then it's on the road from there on out. So and then Austin, right? What great scenes at Q2. We are still hearing about their receipts, I guess, that they're keeping from preseason predictions. Whatever works for you guys, fine. I guess. But the good news for Austin is they'll be underdogs this week, so they could again have that flag, right? That's the narrative. Nobody believes in us.
Okay, so looking at the numbers, Juice Box is early, and LAFC is a minus 196. your 90-minute draw is a plus 362, and Austin is a plus 462 to win outright. Does that seem about right to you? Does Austin have a snowball's chance?
Oh, 100% they do. They beat them this year, right?
And yeah, they have. That is absolutely true. So would you go to the Austin side if you had some spare juice boxes here because of the disparity in the numbers? Or are you still going chalk and leaving it alone?
If you weren't putting in, the goals and all the numbers, and if it was just straight up, I would go LAFC.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're telling me, I don't think Austin's a major underdog, right? So, you could put a few shekels down on Austin for sure.
Okay. Then on the flip side with NYC and Philadelphia, your juice box is here, little closer. Philadelphia is just on the minus side at a minus 114 in the composite. 90-minute draws a plus 271, and NYC is a plus 292. What do you think about those numbers?
Yeah, I mean,
you like apples? How you like them apples?
One of my favorite movies. It should be. And by the way, an underrated part of that movie is he puts the burger on the dash and is like, not, your sandwich is on layaway. I like that part of the movie.
I got a number. Bang.
Yeah, no, this one should be closer. Philly did win both matches this year. Both were they got the early goal at Yankee Stadium. I remember that one. And they won it late at home against NYCFC. So, but this one's really hard, I think, to predict. I don't know. Like the storylines are great, right? Like Philly, it's the rematch of last year. Philly had missed 11 players, so many starters.
Mm-hmm.
They still battled NYCFC to the death. It was a super tight game. They probably should have won. They didn't. NYCFC went on and won the cup. I love that it's the late start, right? Because it's going to be a wild atmosphere.
Chester after dark.
Yeah, buddy. So yeah, no, NYCFC having won so many of these big games, is Bedoya back? Right, yeah, another big question.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would expect it. I think they hand these out of the playoffs throughout the mass confrontations. I expect a few mass confrontations.
Yes, I believe
in this one, maybe even with a trainer again, right? Like the head trainer might
where he hulks up and gets a fight. Yeah, where he's pushing NYC players away, gets the red, and then gets applauded for the walk off. All the Atlanta United folks in the Twitch pitch are looking forward to having Philly lose. But Rich, our Philadelphia Union flag bearer, he says that Union versus NYCFC is the rivalry and that they beat NYC with Tati in the lineup. So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of angst in the Twitch pitch.
There should be.
The Atlanta United fans against the Philly fans, and then the Philly fans trying to make sure that they can push their way through and get the result that they're looking for.
Philly's funny, and you said it was Rich, right?
Yeah, Rich Ransom, yeah.
Yeah, Rich might take umbrage with this, but so, Red Bull NYCFC is the derby, right? Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
New York is red, New York is blue. And it almost feels like Philly has tried to like poke in and find a rival, right? Like, is it Red Bull? Is it NYCFC? Like, it's not DC, like they're in a weird spot there. Mm-hmm. It's hard to have like a 3-team rivalry a little bit. But I do think, to Rich's point, though, I do think that the bigger matches intensify a rivalry, and we saw that with Atlanta and Red Bull, right? Like a couple years back when it was, big matches in the regular season, certainly the playoffs as well, right? So I think now that this is now the third time that Philly and NYCFC have met in the playoffs, and back to back now for the Eastern Conference Final. And I think a lot of the heat that you saw this year in the two matchups were based off of last year's game. So 100%, I think, it's not well, there is a natural New York Philly one, no doubt, right? Giants, Eagles, and Mets, Phillies,
Rangers, Flyers,
Rangers, Flyers, so it fits that, it fits that narrative for sure. But then you add it with the playoffs. So I will agree with him that at least for right now, that this one is pretty hot between these two teams.
And we have a point made by our resident New England Revolution fan, Shooter McGavin, who is, yes, exactly. Shooter points out that November 5th is MLS Cup. And also it would be Game 7 of the World Series. So Shooter is looking for the Union to lose both games on that day, lose MLS Cup to the Western Conference foe, and then lose Game 7 of the World Series. So that's the kind of love that we have in the Twitch pitch this morning toward Rich.
Wow. No love for the city of brotherly love.
None whatsoever. Abby's asking if there's any word on the new stadium for NYCFC.
No. Not yet. No.
The running question.
What's funny was, if you, I don't know if it predates. It certainly predates like Atlanta's entry into MLS, but the running joke a long time ago when Nick Sakavich was the president GM of the then Metro Stars and became the Red Bulls. When the same thing, it was, hey, when, new stadium, when is that going to happen? And there was all the running joke was always, there'll be an announcement. We'll likely hear something in the next 60 to 90 days. And that continued on and on into years. So every time I'm asked about the new stadium, I always think back to those days, when they were playing in a cavernous giant stadium, and thinking back to the 60 to 90 days part. It was pretty funny.
Oh, the Athletic with the alleged probable, perhaps playoff format to expand it to 30 for their new TV partner. What do you think about that idea?
Does everything have to have a World Cup format?
I would say no. I just want it to be straight. I just want it to be straight eights, two legs all the way through. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm with you, right? And then you do that. How many matches is that then?
It's high 20s.
Right? Like, so they put out 30 as a number, right? Like there's 13 playoff matches now.
Mm-hmm.
When it was you, me, and Jason shooting it here on a Wednesday, like we had the same. We were all, I think, in agreement. We're all fans of the two-legged series, right?
Yeah.
And now think about this, right? Even go back the last round. How great would El Tráfico have been across two legs? How great would Philly NYCFC be across two legs, right? Like, so Austin, same thing, right? Like Texas Derby, this match. So you get the feeling though that MLS probably in its thinking is like, we don't want to go backwards. Let's go forward thinking.
Liga MX is two legs. What's so backward thinking about?
I'm a fan of the two legs. I'm not a fan of like Leagues Cup. I think is going to be a World Cup format, right? Like everything we're hearing is everything's got to be World Cup format.
Hashtag.
I don't get it. I mean, look, this is one of those that obviously has legs because it was leaked to The Athletic with the idea of, hey, what does everybody think? Like put it out to the MLS fans and get their thought before it actually gets released, or scrap it if everybody hates it. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I look. I feel like you can get, if you want to expand the playoffs. Yes, you do your 2 legs and maybe even have a play-in game, right? A one-off playoff game in each conference, and now you've added 2 more games to it. But I'm fine with MLS Cup being a one-off, and then everything else after that should be 2 legs.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I can do that as well. But yeah, just the notion of, even if MLS Cup were 2 legs, just to get you to like 27, 28, somewhere in there, that puts you into the high 20s with those legs. But yeah, and we were talking about it in the first hour when I went over the details. I mean, the NBA has gone berserk, where they now have the play-in wild card round
Yeah.
was 7, 10, 8, 9, and then those winners get into the 8, and then you go from there. I mean, it's to expand and give more revenue for the NBA. You saw it with Major League Baseball, adding wild cards. You saw
Like
it with
I love the NHL playoffs.
yes.
Obviously, those are best of 7. I'm not suggesting to do that here, right? But
Oh, that'd be best of 7s.
I don't think there'd be any players left for NYCFC or Philly after that.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
I think Martinez he might get like 3 reds in a 7-game series.
Absolutely.
Like he'd get a red in the first match, be suspended for the second. He would get a red in the third, be suspended for the fourth, and then he'd probably pick up another red like in the 7th game.
Yeah, especially if there's nothing behind it, and your team's up, and you sit there and you make that tackle. You definitely could see Martinez with at least 1, if not 2 reds in a 7-game series. Man, that'd be great. Before we go, we were getting into the new. You mentioned that you were so far incorrect on a couple of the player of the year votes and the coach of the year votes, things like that. Down here, Thiago Almada won newcomer of the year yesterday, and the one element that we were discussing in hour number 1 was that both Petrovic and Cucho had the same percentage, and Thiago Almada won the other 2 categories, but was so far behind in the media category at 10.6%, below both 21 point whatever to both the other 2 candidates. It was shocking to have that kind of a disparity.
And by the way, my picks, John, like if you go over my picks so far, other than goalkeeper, I think, because I guess I went on a limb there with Petrovic, but like Nancy and Cucho were my picks there. Like I'm right with the rest of the media, I guess. Like we're all like those were the favorites there on both of them.
Yeah, well, why is it? And this is a question that happens, here a lot. Why do you think? And this is going to come across as a Southern / Atlanta United bias question, considering where the show is based. But why do you think that number with the media was as low as it was, where the 2 Northeastern candidates ended up with 42% of the vote, equal the same number of votes?
Yeah.
Thiago Almada, who had a better year, I think, than Petrovic. No question. I mean, considering what he was able to do, why do you think the media number was so low for Thiago Almada?
I would say that I think for both Cucho and Petrovic, the argument could be made that and it's funny, right? Because all 3 of those teams missed the playoffs, right?
Yep.
So you got to put that, like, that's an equalizer, put that off to the side. But I think Cucho had such a hot start in MLS, right? Like, I think voters hark back and think about that, right? Like, he was red hot right away, scoring a ton of goals, had Columbus going in a good way. And then you think of Petrovic, and again, he was right there in the conversation for goalkeeper of the year. I had him as such. And you see the big moments from him, right? Like the PK saves. And maybe because Atlanta had struggled or certainly underperformed, I feel like they it's debatable, I guess. But for me, I think that Atlanta underperformed maybe more than the other 2 did, based on who they have, right? So I think perhaps it was that Almada didn't have that really super hot stretch, or that big amazing moment.
But he
And
put up some highlight reel stuff, dude. I mean,
no. I'm just saying, like, uh, I don't know if it's like a. I mean, I get.
I mean, when Weeby came out and he said that he it openly admitted to an Atlanta United bias, I mean, that set off some alarm bells
Well,
here.
yeah, I was about to say there isn't one, but perhaps there there is one there. I don't have one, but
Yeah, but and so a lot of folks were just wondering the disparity where you had the two Northeastern candidates or the Midwest and the Rust Belt and the Northeast guy, they had the same number of votes. And then Thiago Almada was so far back, yet he won the other two categories. And I think that was what folks were looking at when it came to that third vote with the media.
yeah, but I mean, also, I guess his MLS media slanted to the Northeast. It is everywhere. But yeah, no, I think it's an interesting debate.
Okay. So like I said, I wanted to put that to the floor.
I don't know. Maybe again, maybe Cucho's goals resonate more with voters than assists for Almada. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could definitely, I could send a highlight reel to a lot of voters where we could compare and contrast Cucho's goals and Thiago Almada's goals without question, because he had some absolute bangers this past season. But yeah, that was something we talked about in hour number one. I wanted to bring it to the floor when it came to all these kinds of things. Oh wow, we've gone past your allotted window, sir. I don't want to. We're in added time. We're not in. But I forgot to put up the board to sit there and say how many extra minutes we had here.
Fourth official here.
All right, so you're thinking chalk this weekend, but it might take a while. Or are you going to go with NYCFC to beat Philly without Bedoya? Perhaps.
All right, I will go LAFC over Austin.
Okay.
And I will go. I'll go Philly over NYCFC.
Okay. All right. So there we go. All right, because a lot of
in 90 plus minutes.
A lot of commissioners might sit there and want the top two media markets for their championship.
Honestly, I think you're good with either of those. Like I think Philly LAFC was a great match this year. You do well there, and obviously, look, you get New York LA for sure. Like that's huge too.
All right. So what are the plans, sir, with what's going on with you at MLSsoccer.com and OSDB Sports, and what's your game this weekend?
Playoff Sunday. I like it a little bit because I get a bit of a reprieve on a Saturday night, which has been tough because I get the high school football during the day, and then MLS matches late night on a lot of the regular season. So that's nice. It's nice to just go all in Sunday with MLS matches, which we will. OSDB probably. This week I had a bit of a look at Lionel Messi and the investment firm that he opened up, and also maybe is that the first salvo here to his move to perhaps South Beach.
We'd like to have Lionel Messi playing for Inter Miami. I think it'd be a fantastic addition. Yeah, for us, yes.
You still got to work on that accent.
I do. That's absolutely.
And then this week probably we'll take a look at an early, not so early preview of MLS Cup right after some of these matches, and then my game of the week. I will be out at Garden City in Nassau County, where the Garden City Trojans are riding, I think, a 19-game winning streak.
Oh wow!
And they take on the Gladiators of New Hyde Park, which is an up-and-coming team. Certainly expect Garden City to win this one going away, but some good narratives there. And look, it's Trojans against Gladiators, right? Like that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So broadcast plans. How can folks watch the
yeah, it'll be youtube.com/varsity media, as well as the Yes Network app.
There you go. Dylan Butler at Dylan_Butler with MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports, and the high school football game of the week because we're in the penultimate week of the high school football regular season here.
This is the final week for us.
And then we have one more week. Then decision day is next Friday, where we figure out who goes where. If we have any mini region play-in games and things like that. Basically it's high school football's version of Thunderdome, where tiebreakers, get this, tiebreakers for playoff seedings depend literally on the region itself. You could have one tiebreaker in one region, different tiebreaker in another region, and we have the dreaded mini game in some regions.
Mini game,
where if you have, say, 3 or more teams, then you have them all congregate on Monday afternoon or Monday evening in a central location. They end up playing, they have coin flips. Then you have the teams that win the coin flips have the option of whether they want to watch the first game or they want to play in the first game to set a marker. And then they play a quarter. They play a 6-minute quarter, like a half of a standard high school quarter. And then whoever scores the most in that half quarter advances to the next play-in game to play the team that won the coin flip in the first place. Like I said, it's Thunderdome.
That's crazy.
And then those folks can go, and whoever wins gets into the empty playoff spots that had to be decided because tiebreakers. I mean, it's like a difference of common opponents, a margin of victory in some places. Yeah, it's the head-to-head, and then you get into margin of victory. And then if you get past that, it's the dreaded mini game. So, yeah, we have that kind of stuff going on here in Georgia starting next Friday night. So, and then 5 weeks after that, and our championships are the week after the SEC championship game. Then it's signing day in a week and a half.
That's right.
So that's what we get. Please, may all of your boards not run, and may everything stay taped and everything be on solid backings, and may everything. Oh, well, you got your boards?
Yeah, this is one of them. I put it on the manila envelope. I don't know how much you can see here.
Yeah, you got it. That's good.
Yeah. All right, little bit. Here's the offense.
Yeah, there you go.
So, and then I write some notes on the other side, team notes.
There you go.
So,
yeah, for me, I call it art class, and I literally have like particle board, and it's like massive. And I mean, look, I had like particle board that was about 3 feet by 3 feet, and I would bring it into the booth, and it would have like starting lineups and all my notes and everything, and it's flippable, and I'm like smacking the stat guy because it was so big and those kinds of oh yeah. But as always, my friend, may everything make slot. May you have a fantastic game without a running clock, unless that's what you want, so you can get home and continue to be the individual that is on your coffee mug today. Dylan, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend. We'll catch up next week.
all right, buddy.
All right, Dylan Butler, MLSsoccer.com and OSDB Sports and New York high school football. See, kindred spirits on more than one level, and it's great to be able to talk high school football. I got to get Dylan some GPB swag now that I think about it. I got to get Dylan some Football Fridays in Georgia stuff that he can add to his high school footballness. So that's Dylan, and it's once again very cool to have him put up with my questions every single week. And thanks for all of your input as always when it comes to having all of our guests here on the show.